This is Robert Martellacci, the Mindshare Learning Report, Canada's Learning and Technology e-magazine. And welcome to This Week in Canadian EdTech. We have a very special Mindshare TV podcast edition. We're going to have a sneak peek at Erin Mills Connects' newly minted special report, Beyond High School, a guide to discovering your pathway to success. I'm honored to have joined me an esteemed group of guests who I am going to have introduce themselves, beginning with Catherine Chamberlain. Kathy, thank you for joining me this afternoon.
My pleasure. My pleasure. You said my name, and I'm the project manager for the new project that you were talking about. It's called Beyond High School.
And you were on the school council at John Fraser Secondary, where we first met. And Mary Nanavati was principal at the time. Over to you, Mary, and that's how we connected with this wonderful not-for-profit. What inspired it, Mary?
Yeah, I'm just so proud to be here and to be part of Erin Mills Connects. I'm a retired high school principal. John Fraser Secondary School was my last school with the appeal board as a principal. I loved it, was there for 6 years, helped to co-found Erin Mills Connects, and I continue to volunteer and be on its steering committee.
Well, thank you for that. It's such a passion project of mine to be involved with the steering committee, because I love the grassroots nature and the impact that you've made over the years. And what we're exploring today is just a great example of how you really pay attention to your customers, which are the students and the teachers. And speaking of students, we have an alumni from the Peel District School Board who is a past winner of our Canadian EdTech Startup Challenge, Aman Sahoda. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Robert. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast again.
And you've got a little startup, perhaps, that's making an impact. And what inspired your startup, E-Amplified?
Yeah, we really were focused on the concept of emotional intelligence and bridging it within education in order to make sustainable change and really help drive societal issues. We focus on quantifying emotions through machine learning, and through that help consult schools make change. And I feel like this document that we all put together and really worked hard on is a great stepping forward to help students that were once in my position. Back over to you, Robert.
Amazing. Thank you so much. With that, why don't we perhaps add to the conversation our, lo and behold, we've got the Beyond High School, a guide to discovering your pathway to success. I love the title. I know there was a lot of conversation around the title, and I think collectively the group nailed it. And talk to me, Catherine, you've been quarterbacking the project on the inspiration for this.
Well, I think it started with a discussion with the registrar of the University of Toronto at Mississauga, who had been one of the architects of the resource that preceded this in 2013. And she said, wouldn't it be great if we had a new one, especially as we emerge from the pandemic, because so many things have happened to our kids in these past 2 years. So we applied for money to do it a couple of times, and then we got lucky and we got some money from Canada's Healthy Communities Initiative, and we're able to start producing a document that would help kids plan what they wanted to do after they graduated.
Amazing. Aman, what would you have done if had you had something like this? What's the value that you see in this at this juncture early on in the equation?
Yeah, and I think you just went perfectly to the slide where it starts with about you, the learner. It really helps you build self-awareness, which wasn't something that I was aware of going into university or college or pursuing the different pathways. I wasn't really, I was always really told like it's built in me. I just said university and college, but this resource goes into apprenticeship. It goes into mentorship, and I've been lucky enough to have Robert as a mentor, and it really inspires you to let you know that traditional is not always right, and you need to be self-aware about yourself in order to move forward. And it gives you the different information for the different pathways that you have, and it allows you to pursue it yourself. So it's really a guiding tool, as the document's name illustrates. And if I had this document, I think I would be looking, I would have more of a growth mindset, which is something you was talking
Right.
about, and it would really
Mhm.
help me foster different pathways. Because often when we're in university, we're so focused on getting those grades to get into university and college, when there's so much more out there in the world. You did a great job writing the entrepreneurship piece on the different community accelerators, the summer programs, the jobs, and the different opportunities that are within the community. So I think it would definitely help me foster more of a growth mindset coming out of high
Right.
school and prepare me with the tools and resources I needed for post-secondary school.
Fascinating. Mary Nanavati, talk to me about the self-awareness profile as the next piece. You really, as a former principal, had an opportunity to really get to know the students, and one of the greatest challenges is self-awareness when you're a young teenager, and I think this document it applies to kids coming into grade 9, let alone graduating. It's so packed with valuable insight and inspiration.
Yeah, as a former principal, helping students to choose their pathway, what they want to do after high school, is a major milestone for a student. And we really wanted to create a document that would help students and their families make really good decisions. And so the document starts out with taking a look at who you are as a learner, helping you to be self aware, what your passions are, what your interests are, what are your strengths, what are your values. So these things should help to guide you in terms of whether or not you want to go to university, college, apprenticeship, the world of work, whether or not you want to be an entrepreneur or take a gap year. All of those pathways are valid and wonderful, and we want students and their families to be able to make good decisions. And that's what inspired this document.
Amazing. Now, the pathway isn't always direct. I have to say
Mhm.
that I'm going to my 70th high school reunion. I wasn't there from the beginning, obviously, but it's a good 40 years ago. But I was streamed to be in technical, and then Mr. Everett, it was all his fault. The ex-Bay Street lawyer or banker said to us in consumer studies, the years of your 20s are the years of your could haves and should haves. And I got to thinking, I should go to grade 13. I should think about university. And that really was a tipping point for me. So the path isn't always direct. So
Mhm.
you really have to, and we talk about the skills, right? Those, uh, could I show the essential skills slide? Which one would that be on the deck? Is it somewhere in here, Kathy? That
Well, there are a number of different skills.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I would say if you talk about the post-secondary pathways,
right,
that um, there from the beginning of the document to the
right,
end, you're discovering your pathway.
right,
But at this section, it outlines university,
right,
college, apprenticeships, entrepreneurship, which can be done in concert with anything else, as well as work and in a gap year. And what you need to do or what kind of prerequisites you need to go to different pathways. Plus a lot of practical information. You showed a little bit earlier some of the
right.
budgeting sheets that our guidance writer had developed to help kids figure out how much money they needed to go to university or college or go on to an apprenticeship, live on their own and be an entrepreneur or even take a gap year.
I love that you included the well-being piece because of COVID
Mm-hmm.
and the impact. And this is an area that we all need to do better with. I know the teachers are stressed to the hilt, and the students are, and really trying to balance it. Everyone's looking forward to the year end, and you really had some really practical insight and self care, and that is Mary. What what did you see this past year? What are you hearing from the teachers, your colleagues, and kids?
Yeah, it's been a tough couple of years for anybody in education. And I think that Section 4 is a wonderful addition to the document. It talks about things like resilience, stress, anxiety. It makes distinctions between mental health versus mental illness. There are wonderful links in that section to resources. Kathy, anything else that you would highlight in Section 4?
We worked really hard to provide connections with other organizations that are really doing well nationally and provincially and at universities to create some materials for kids, young adults, such as School Mental Health Ontario. They provide information that's in English and in French, so that's a great resource. Jack.org, University de Sherbrooke has some neat videos talking about anxiety and stress, and there's a lot of really good stuff out there.
Fantastic. Amon, let's talk about entrepreneurship. That's the path you've taken. And we'll back up for a moment. And, you got your undergrad. There's kids that have graduated from high school. Some didn't graduate from high school that went on to create startups, super successful. Your pathway was kind of unique. And what inspired you to pursue that?
Yeah. Originally, I was inspired to go into university from a family and friends. As an entrepreneurship was something that mentors kind of got me into. I originally was mentored by Iran's Olympic coach, and then yourself. And really, I felt like entrepreneurship was a pathway to making the change I wanted to see. And it also helped me foster a growth mindset. One of the things I love about this document is it talks about the importance of mentorship. I feel like mentorship is often a pathway that is overlooked and not discussed enough, and it can be as valuable as school, and it is as valuable as school and provides you a real world experience. So really, I feel like this document provides a holistic view on entrepreneurship while providing you insights and real world experience from an expert like yourself, Robert, who wrote this section and does a great job giving you practical steps to start, no matter what pathway you're taking, whether you're in university
Right.
or college. It still provides you the opportunity to be an entrepreneur through a summer program that you mentioned and gives you
Well,
the different resources and tools that you need.
and the reality is you evolve your career. I studied economics and sport management, worked in that field for a number of years. I augmented my skills. I did a master's in learning technology and segued into another field. So the notion of lifelong learning and that growth mindset is something that you've baked into this document, which I think is fabulous. And we really enjoy contributing to the entrepreneurship piece. Why don't we talk about putting it into action, and making it happen? It's about passion and a call to action was one of my taglines when I first started doing podcasts, and my family would laugh at me on that moniker that I had. But you really do need to, there's great ideas out there. When we developed this Mindshare workspace, I had a PowerPoint like this, and it was an idea, and it all starts with, putting it down digitally. I was going to say on paper, but digitally or on paper, and then it's about execution. Perhaps you can talk to me a little bit about that, Catherine.
Well, I'm going to defer to the person who wrote that section, Mary Nanavati.
Oh, okay. Mary.
Yeah.
Well, it's, now that you've, the first section, you focus on yourself as a learner. In Section 2, we take you into a deep dive around your pathways. Section 3, entrepreneurship. Section 4, your health and well-being. And then in Section 5, we kind of pull it all together by focusing on two things: goal setting and action planning. Set some goals, get them written down, and we give you some templates and processes around putting that goal into action for yourself to help you move from ideas to actual reality for yourself in terms of your pathway. So we're very excited about that, and we're hoping that the interactive processes that we have embedded in this document will really help students and their families.
Wonderful. Amon, do you want to contribute your thoughts to putting things in action when you had your startup and you were, I'm sure intimidated somewhat and apprehensive about doing it? How did you take action? What was the tipping point for you?
I think one of the biggest things is don't look for perfection and continue to adapt and evolve. And it all goes back to what we often talk about is with that growth mindset, right? Look at everything as a learning experience. And failures aren't necessarily failures, they're an opportunity to learn. So that was the kind of mindset that I felt needed to be fostered in order to be an entrepreneur. Read a lot of books, talked to a lot of mentors, and continued to network and really using the world as a learning experience. Really, the first part of the section, I keep mentioning it, that self-awareness piece was critical. I had to understand my own strengths, my own weaknesses, and continue to be resilient and adaptive in moving forward. So I would say growth mindset was probably the biggest thing that helped me
Yeah.
kind of my entrepreneurial journey, and that this document really fosters and focuses on while giving you expertise in order to move forward with your life beyond high school.
Well said, Aman. Mary, any final thoughts to share?
No, we're just very excited about the document. It will be housed on the erinmillsconnects.org website. The English version will be housed before the end of this month, June, so anybody can access it. We're also very excited that it's going to be translated into French, Arabic, and Urdu. And depending on funding, we hope to offer it in other languages as well.
Wonderful. And the official launch date?
Kathy, over to you.
June 30th. June 30th.
June 30th. Okay, stay tuned. With that, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. It's been great.
Catherine, Aman, and Mary of the Erin Mills Connects community not-for-profit on the launch of their newest publication that is going to hit the airwaves, the digital airwaves, June 30th, Beyond High School, A Guide to Discovering Your Pathway to Success. My name is Robert Mertolacci, the Mindshare Learning Report. Be sure to check out www.Mindshare Learning to get your latest issue. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.